It is my pleasure to welcome to Outside the Box, Kerry Hannon. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, I heard you've got a new book, and we're going to touch on that. But if you could just tell the viewers a little bit about you to give them a little backstory.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I specialize in writing and speaking about career transitions. I'm sort of a strategist for careers and talk about personal finance and retirement. I've kind of come along. I cut my teeth in journalism initially and kind of made a shift to becoming an expert in the career field and do a lot of work and research in this area. And so have a series of books on loving your job and finding work after 50 and all of these kinds of things. My book from last year, 2019, was Never Too Old to Get Rich, about midlife entrepreneurship, which I'm
Love
still,
that.
it's still a hot topic. And in
Yes.
the times we're in now, even more so, worth mulling. And now the one we're going to talk about now, which is Great Pajama Job. So I'm looking forward to that.
The reason I wanted to have you on is because Outside the Box features experts like yourself talking about how to find work remotely, or perhaps you want to shift gears and start a new venture. And some of your other books, as well as this current book, really touch on that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's really taking control of your working life, because work is not a four-letter word. Work is something that's part of who we are, our identity, how we make a difference in the world, how we, our network, our friends, our social fabric. And so work is something that's integral to all of us. And so I just love exploring all the different variations of how we can make the work we do meaningful.
Right. And you've had some incredible conversations with people talking about second acts, switching gears. Can you talk about that a little?
Exactly. That is one of my favorite things. One of my books I did a number of years ago was called What's Next? And I spent 3.5 years traveling around the country, meeting people who had done something for maybe 20 or even 30 years and made a radical shift to do something completely different. Usually they were spurred by a health crisis or a global crisis similar to something that we're having today, although we've never had anything like this pandemic. But 9/11 was something that shifted people's thinking, or they lost a job, all kinds of things that kind of rattled their world and made them pause and say, is this what it's all about? Is this what I should be doing? So it got me fascinated by this idea of how we can make a change, and how early in our life we're fairly programmed to move up in our work lives in a fairly linear way. We get promoted, we do what's expected of us, we gain skills and talents, but at some point it's shifting back and it's taking, hey, this is something that I was always passionate about and I had to set aside, or this is something that I'm curious about and I want to learn more about it. So it's a matter of these taking our lives into our own hands. And I so appreciate that question, because I think it gives people the freedom to make those changes. And so I've really focused on, okay, great. Now, how do you do it?
Yes, because it's scary, especially right now. Someone might have this option of, you know what, I lost my job, or I don't want to go back in the office. I want to work remotely, and that's not an option. So maybe it's time to pivot right now.
Yeah, I think today is a very interesting time for people to kind of sit with themselves, do that inner MRI about what is this? When they talk to workers, Gallup recently did a poll talking to people who are working from home, and a huge percentage of them don't ever want to go back to the workplace. And it is for health reasons to a certain degree, but some of it is they frankly learned how to make it work for them. They found that this is a joy, having this kind of work-life balance. It's working out. And sometimes it's for people, it used to be really, traditionally, I always thought of, trying to phase into retirement or a part-time retirement job or something that was well suited to a home office, or starting your own business. How beautiful, because you could start up a business without bricks and mortar. But in today's world, we're all getting used to, against our, we didn't plan this, but we're used to working from home. So maybe you use this time to say, okay, so how can I make this a more permanent part? If my employer does want me to come back, how can I make the case that I should stay working from home even a good part of the time? And frankly, employers are going to be much more open to this idea moving forward.
I think so.
They found out that it works. But it's all ages are finding this to be, and this was happening before. But again, one other point I want to make to that question is so many people have been laid off, right?
Over
So
20 million?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just staggering.
Astonishing. Yes.
So again, getting back, getting a job, landing a job, how is this going to work? And this may be the time for you. You may have a hard time getting back into the job market. So this may be a good time to think about, what is that business? You know, what did you always want to start to be your own boss? Maybe start laying that groundwork. Let's start thinking about doing some research into that arena, or looking at this remote jobs arena and what's available.
Mm-hmm. I did something recently because I'm taking this class. I tell all my guests on the show. It's the Science of Well-Being with Dr. Laurie Santos at Yale. And I did a character strengths assessment. So I think if people tap into what are their strengths, like my number one is curiosity, and the other ones are humor and creativity. So if you tap into what are you good at, and you might have worked in this one area for so long, but you can take your strengths and put them in different areas right now.
No kidding. It is so perfect. And that's the thing, is so many of us haven't had time to sit quietly and do that, you know, inner peeling it back. What is it that I'm really good at? What are my hard skills? What are my soft skills? How do I redeploy that into a new area? You know, is it possible? Of course it is. A lot of the stuff that you've already developed and you have innately is transferable. I call it redeploying your skills, but often we don't even recognize them until we do something like you had the opportunity to do, and really, you know, drill down. Ask people you know as well, colleagues, friends, family. Sometimes they'll tell us something about ourselves that we take for granted. We had no idea, you know. So
Yeah.
it's important to know what you're good at. And I love that you said curiosity, because that is the number one, in my opinion, ingredient to success in life and in your work life.
I think so, because I know it's easy to fall into this negative mindset right now. It's scary. Depending on people's situations, it's very scary to be out of work. But if you switch it and say, what am I good at? What are my strengths? I'm going to get through this, and look at it as a learning moment to grow. I mean, a lot of people are, as you said, happy at home. They're finding this balance. They're noticing nature. They're exercising more. They're really living their life that they were just flying by.
Yeah, they're taking that pause. It's the great sigh and pause, and
Yeah.
we didn't expect it, we didn't ask for it, but my goodness, maybe there is a silver lining here. Maybe this is the time to recharge, rethink, refocus. Yeah,
I hope so.
and it could be all for the best. There are some wonderful ways that people are going to be able to pivot to doing, you know, work that really makes a difference in the world and in their own lives. And you have to take your time. You have to go slow. There's this great image that I'll be fair, that a good friend of mine said to me not long ago, and I've decided to steal it from her, Marcy Albaher, from encore.org. And it was, you know, when you're making this kind of transition, think of it as if you're crossing a beautiful mountain stream. And, you know, it's not a deep stream, but there are these stones, and you're going to thoughtfully step stone to stone to get across to the other side. That's what we can do right now. We're just going to take one step, maybe do a little research, take another step, maybe sign up for a class like you're taking, or, you know, a lecture series online right now. And you know, you'll get to the other side, but you've got to take it in steps. And when I profiled all of my second actors for What's Next, that was one of the common, they all started very different kinds of ventures and moved off to new fields. But one of the common things was no rash moves.
I like that. Yeah. And really, now's the time to dial into taking care of yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Oh, I'm so happy you said that. Self-care is the buzzy word, but that is so, so important when you're working from home. Yes. When you are, you know, have your setup at home, and maybe initially, or maybe still, you were working off of the ironing board with your computer, or you had your kids are in one room working and your spouse is in the other, or your partner, and, you know, it's a bit of mayhem, and it's hard to draw those boundaries between work and family. And sometimes, for goodness sakes, you know, the work intrudes on, you're working longer than you should be, or and it's, you forget to eat, you forget to back away from the screen and go read a book.
Yes.
Go take a walk with your dog, like I like to do. And, you know, but definitely, you know, we forget that self-care. And if you don't do that, you don't have the energy to be productive and to be
Right.
successful at what you're doing.
And people will tell if you have to get in a Zoom call for a conversation with a client or whomever, they'll tell you're looking kind of fried, you know?
Yeah, I read an article today about how for women it's even harder because women are like for some reason really judgy of ourselves on
Oh
these
my
Zoom.
gosh,
Like,
yes.
oh my gosh, do I have my makeup on? Do I have
Healer?
and the men don't seem to care as much, but
It's
maybe
definitely,
that's always been true in the workplace as well.
probably,
It's magnified.
probably. So we're going to touch on your book, but I have to get ready for it. So give me one
Okay,
second.
prep time.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about working in your pajamas.
Oh, I love it. Setting the stage. And don't you look comfortable?
Don't I?
That is so great. Yeah, you know, Great Pajama Jobs was, you know, it's kind of a fun title. And I have been working from a home office for a long time now, at least 15 years. And I admit, I stay in my PJs a lot longer than one
Why
might.
not?
But I do encourage people ultimately to get dressed if you are, you know, because it sets that mental
Of
mind.
course.
It kind of gets you focused on, okay, now I'm at work. And as we talked about earlier, that separation between work and family and work and home.
Of course.
And so it's really important to take your leisure time, read your, you know, whatever your emails, respond, do your,
Yes.
you know, read everything up. And then when you're hitting the track, I say, you know, you don't have to do everything, but I try to pretend as if I might be, and it's not just if I have a Zoom call, but I
Right.
do.
A
But
routine. A routine of
oh,
getting
thank you.
ready,
You
showering.
nailed it.
Yeah.
And that's
You mean I can't wear this all day?
I actually think you look great in it. But the point is what you just mentioned. The
Yeah.
key to being a really terrific work from home, remote worker is time management.
Yes.
And it's having a schedule. And as we mentioned before, setting those boundaries. But having a schedule and time management, these are keys that we know, we intellectually we know we need to do that. But let's go ahead and do it.
Mhm.
And give yourself that opportunity to actually frame out your day. I like to do it the night ahead of time, what I need to do. But yeah, you have to have wiggle room in there. But if you're organized and you are really good managing your time, you can get a lot done and you don't feel overwhelmed.
Definitely. And I feel like also if you don't have a lot going on, if you've lost your job or you're pivoting to something else, fill your day with conversations and networking. Get on Zoom, talk to people face to face. Don't just text and emojis. Really connect, right?
It's the connection, and I recently wrote a column for Market Watch on this topic of the informational interview. All right, blah blah, it's buzzy, you know. But frankly, this is a great time to, like you said, reach out to your network. You know, it's one letter away from not working. Network, not work, network, not work. Call people, do those, reach out and have these little 20-minute chats with somebody who maybe can give you some direction. This is if you're looking for work or you're thinking of doing a career transition, starting your own business, whatever it might be. These are great times to build these new relationships because you can do this a virtual chat like this. You can do it on a number of different platforms. And I find that people, you know, you get referred to somebody and there's some skills to doing these. This is an old-fashioned way of looking for work. You're not asking that person for a job.
Right.
You're asking their advice. You're asking them to tell you about what they do. And oh my gosh, who doesn't like to talk about what they do
You're
and
right.
how they got where they are? And we all love to help each other out and to give advice. And then you always say, who else should I talk to? And then you keep that ball rolling and you never know where those contacts may lead. The key here really though, there's you know, you set it up, you take control of it, you don't waste anyone's time. But here's the secret ingredient is don't sit there and talk about yourself. It's not about you, it's about them. So listen. And when I give presentations talking about this thing, I put up a picture of my dog Xena and how she looks up at me with those adoring eyes. And that's what, you don't have to look at the person with adoring eyes, but you need to listen and really absorb what they're saying, because I can't tell you how flattering that is to somebody, to know that you're hanging on what they're saying. And when that call is finished, that connection is finished for that moment, they walk away with a really good impression of you, because
Definitely.
it's flattering.
Yes. I know a lot of times I suggest people talk to your alumni. So for me, I went to Syracuse. I was talking to somebody that's a junior at Syracuse, and he needs some mentoring. But you can just brainstorming with somebody, seeing what groups they belong to, what organizations, how they got their job. I mean, everything what you said and more, you know.
Oh, I love that. Yes, perfect one is the alumni network, high school, college, whatever it may be. These are people we're inclined to really want to embrace our fellow alums. We have this loyalty. If someone says, and for me, sometimes it's where I grew up. If someone says they're from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I'm like, oh, you're my buddy. You know, you just have this instant.
No, I don't know you.
So I think that it's really working those different things. I will say, when we're talking about, I can't get away from not mentioning LinkedIn, because that's a great business way to connect. Look at your connections on LinkedIn. Who knows who, if there's a company you're interested in or a business that you're interested in learning more about, because you might want to start something in that field. Maybe you just want some reconnaissance in the back end on that. Look to see who who knows somebody there, or you know somebody who works there. And that's just a great way to get in the door. LinkedIn also has, if you go onto LinkedIn Learning and type in remote work, they have a wonderful tutorial up right now to help people build these work from home skills, these remote working skills, everything from, you know, your communications, the apps that you need to be comfortable with, things we mentioned earlier, time management apps, or various things that kind of help you kind of glide your way through this new path for many people.
That's a great resource. I've actually gotten a lot of guests on LinkedIn for Outside the Box, and I'm noticing they're doing a lot of conversations with people that are hiring.
Yeah, and it's really good. And LinkedIn has a good recruiter button that you can check if you want people to look for you. And in today's world, it's really, I love some job boards a whole lot. Like one of my favorites is flexjobs.com. That's all about remote working. There's some really good ones out there, but I do think people get hired the old-fashioned way. Employers hire people they know, or people they know. So it's your network. You need to look at those jobs postings, those boards, to see who's hiring, what is out there, what kinds of skills are they hiring for? Do I have the right certificates, the right experience, or do I need to go add one? And now there's some great learning opportunities right now, some wonderful free content for learning online right now. So use that as your research tool, and in many ways. And then sure, you can apply directly that way. But I do think it's that connection that we make through LinkedIn and otherwise, and having a recruiter come to you. It's somebody coming to you versus you blindly going to them. That you're going to have a much better track record there.
Great advice. I know for some, it feels like a black hole submitting their resume to some places. So it's nice that you mentioned is FlexJob.
Right. So FlexJobs is a really great resource. And one of the sections of my book, Great Pajama Jobs, is on profiling 40 great remote employers. And I went to the list because FlexJobs actually tracks these every year, the top 100 remote employers. And they started this years ago. So even though a lot of companies have embraced this now, these are ones that have it all in place. They really understand how to work with the remote workforce. So I profile 40 of those companies, thanks to FlexJobs for providing me with their list, that they vetted these companies. So it's, you know, we know that they're really solid, good jobs.
Look at the timing of your book.
Yeah.
Who would have imagined? I mean, this is perfect, because what you just gave information about FlexJobs and how all this information, because some people are feeling really down and not knowing where to look and how to find the information they need. So thank you.
Yeah, it is. It's really a useful one. Another one for sort of an older worker is work at home vintage employees or employers, I think, Wave, WAHVE, and just Google it. And they're really terrific. Again, very, very much vet the website to make sure they're typically are in the insurance field or financial services, accounting, HR. So, but it's worth checking out that site as well. They do a pretty rigorous vetting.
And if people want more information about you, where can they find you?
Oh, yeah. Come to my website, kerryhannon.com, KerryHannon.com. You can follow me on Twitter at KerryHannon.com, or check me out on LinkedIn, whatever. I would love to, hear from anyone. And I just think, who would have thought? I mean, luckily, this book was in the works way before coronavirus,
Wow.
but I've had the opportunity, given the editing, how the publishing world goes, to get back in and really rework the book. So it's very timely for where we are today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the series.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.